We've all heard of the Karen Read case, but you didn't follow along because, frankly, there were a lot of names, it was super complex, and it lasted forever. You're correct. I'm going to simplify it, I'm going to do it all in one part, and I'm going to keep it to 10 minutes, so pull out the stopwatch. Karen Read is an average woman. She's in her 40s. She works in finance. She was dating a man named John O'Keefe. He is the subject of this trial. John O'Keefe was a Canton City police officer. That's going to matter. Now, John and Karen's relationship had been a little bit rocky as of late. They'd been getting in a lot of fights, but they were still technically on. So on the night in question, this was in January of 2022, they decided to go to a bar. It was called the Waterfall Bar. Now, while they were at the bar, they ran into some friends, and these friends said, hey, you know what? After this, we're keeping the party going. We are going to our friends, the Alberts' home. Would you like to come with us? Sure, sounds good. So they all leave the bar and they all drive over to the Alberts' home, okay? John and Karen, I think, were the last ones to leave. They were at least the last ones to arrive. Now, they were kind of friends through John O'Keefe because John O'Keefe, like I said, was a Canton City police officer. So was Mr. Albert. So they pull up and Karen says, you know what, why don't you go in first? I don't know them super well. I want to make sure like we're actually welcome. I will stay here. I will wait in the car. You report back. John says, okay. And John goes inside and Karen waits in the car. And she waits. And she waits. And she never hears from John. She's texting him, hey, what's going on? Dude, what's going on? What? Hey, right? Nothing. So eventually, she leaves. As she's driving home, she's upset. She's angry. I would be too. So she's calling his phone and she's leaving him some nasty voicemails like, what is wrong with you? So Karen actually makes her way back to John's house and she ends up crashing there. She wakes up around 5 in the morning and she realizes John's not there. John actually never came home. And she starts to think that something might actually really be wrong here. So she starts making some calls. So she's calling people that were there at that house that night. They don't know where John is. In fact, they tell her John never came in the house that night. Karen's kind of freaking out. So she says, hey, can you come over? I think we should all go and look for John together, which is exactly what they do. As they're driving, they drive around to several spots. They get back to the Alberts' home, and that's when Karen sees John laying in the front lawn covered in snow. She jumps out of the car. She goes over to see him. He's clearly unconscious. At this point, I think he is actually dead. They call 911. Karen is hysterical, so it's the people that were in the car with her that make the phone call. She's screaming, she's panicking, paramedics come, police come, and interestingly, they don't talk to the people inside the home right away. When I say the home, I'm talking about the Alberts' home, the home where John and Karen went to the night before, the home where Karen thought John went into, the home where John is now laying dead on the ground in front of. Police didn't go up and knock on the door, and the people inside the home, the Alberts, also didn't come out and see what the commotion was when there were all these sirens, when there were paramedics, when there were police on the lawn. Is that odd? Sadly, it is confirmed that John is indeed dead, and the police commence an investigation immediately. They collect blood from the scene in red Solo cups, and they put it in a paper grocery bag. They say they walk around and get Ring camera footage from like all the neighbors in the area, but that magically like disappears or doesn't exist, and that's about all the evidence they find that night. That's it. Nothing else. Later, they name Karen as a suspect, saying that she, in a fit of rage, backed her car into John and left him there in the snow. And so because of that, they impound her car and say her car is evidence. It is after they impound her car that they find pieces of her taillight at the scene of the crime. So Karen is now charged with murder, and she's going to go to trial. So she hires her own attorneys, and her attorneys want to see the autopsy report, obviously. Now, the autopsy showed that his cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, particularly the back of the head. His manner of death was undetermined. He also had scratches all up and down his arm. That'll become important later. And remember, the prosecution is saying this injury and death was from being hit by a car. Now, as thorough as it sounds like this police investigation was, it seems like the FBI may have been tipped off somehow about the thoroughness of this investigation, and they got involved and they conducted their own investigation and they did some crash reconstruction. And the FBI determined that it was impossible that he was hit by a car. Impossible that his injuries came from a car crash. And yet the prosecution, the Commonwealth, decided to still prosecute Karen Read for murder. The FBI investigation also uncovered a few pieces of really important evidence that was later used in trial. For example, there was another man that was at the Alberts home that night that John died. He was also a police officer. Now, that night, after he left the Alberts home, before he went to his own house, he stopped at the police station. Now, we see him on surveillance footage at like 2 or 3 in the morning, moving around in evidence areas with his phone, getting in and out of cars in the parking lot, moving bags between cars. When asked what he was doing, he said he was reparking vehicles because there was a storm coming. We also learned that same police officer, the one that was seen on surveillance footage in the police station, destroyed his phone. Destroyed it. Like shortly after this happened. I don't just mean he got a new phone and like tossed that one in the garbage. I mean he went to a military base to dispose of his phone so that it could never be recovered. Here's another one. Everyone that was in the Alberts home that night, you know, the home that John never went into, after they all said that they had gone to their own homes and gone to bed, they all show calls between each other. All of them. Many calls between each other. I'm talking like between 5 and 10 calls between each other, showing having been answered. And their explanation is that these all must have been butt dials, you know, from their nightstand. Oh, and can't forget the lead investigator, Michael Proctor. They got access to his iCloud data because he had gotten rid of his phone as well, and they learned that he had been sharing texts with his supervisors and friends that had nothing to do with the case about Karen Read from the very beginning. So they had identified her as the person of interest immediately, and he had been saying things like, "I'm going through her phone and I haven't found any nudes yet." Or he was making horrendous and offensive comments about her Crohn's disease, or calling her a cunt and a whack job. Definitely the person that I would trust to investigate this death thoroughly and fairly. So based on all of that, the defense's theory is this: that on the night that John died, it happened exactly as Karen said. They go to the Alberts home, Karen drops John off, John does go inside. When he goes inside, he gets into an argument with the people in the home for whatever reason, and this argument turns physical. They get into a fight. Now, there is a German Shepherd living in the home that is known to be aggressive. So as they start fighting, the dog joins in. Remember, there were scratches all up and down John's arm? Experts later say that those scratches are consistent with a dog attack. Okay? So they're fighting. At some point, John gets punched and he falls to the ground. Now, after what could have been a deadly blow to the head, instead of calling for help, they decided they didn't want to be involved, they didn't want to get blamed, and so instead they dragged him out into the snow and left him for dead. Maybe hoping that he would be covered by snow, or it would look like he got hit by a plow. But then, in a twist of fate, Karen Read calls the next morning. hysterical, looking for John, and they get the bright idea to blame her. They're all cops, remember? They have sway. They have influence. So they call their buddy, Michael Proctor, and they say, hey, this is how it's going to go down. He says, all right, I got you. And then he goes on to help in framing Karen Read for her boyfriend, John O'Keefe's murder. Or she hit him with her car. He only sustained injuries to the back of his head. And then he died that night from those injuries and hypothermia. And no one noticed until the next morning. And the jury acquitted her. They found it more believable that a corrupt police force framed an innocent woman than that John O'Keefe was hit by a car.